Today I'm going to be doing a little friendly competition between the Snap-on Master Ball Joint Press and U-Joint Press versus the Icon Master Ball Joint Press and U-Joint Press. I'll do an overview of the boxes all the way down to every adapter, and I will be showing you how to use it on a U-joint because that's all I have to work with today. So let me glove up and we will get right into it. For no rhyme or reason, I'm going to be starting out with the Snap-on Master Ball Joint Press. Now, coming in at $835 on retail price, you get this nice molded case with little plastic clads right here that, in my opinion, kind of weak. Box is looking at about 20 inches long, about 12 inches wide, and about 4 inches tall. Kind of a funny thing, they put the feet on the bottom with the Snap-on logo upside down when it's sitting upright. So as you can see, the case is a blowout case which holds all your pieces, and this can be set in here, which is actually really nice. You could set this in here with this threaded all the way in or out. I know some of the lower end ball joint kits, this has to be put in a certain way, which is a huge pain in my opinion, and it's just a little thing, right? However, this thing has been with me for a long time, so there is some use and abuse on this thing. But overall, in my experience on the Snap-on kit, it's very, very good. The only thing that I ever have issues with is there's little tiny snap rings in the adapters that over time wear out from usage. Dirt gets in here on the little ring where it's supposed to snap on, so you got to make sure that's cleaned out. However, overall, it's a pretty dang good press. Now, it comes with the 6 adapters to go over certain ball joints, with even the curved adapters to fit certain control arms. Now, from my experience, all of this stuff actually works out fairly good. There is some issues with some ball joints that you have to get more adapters so you can clear them. Now, these are like where you would push on the actual ball joint itself. A couple of different pieces here, and like an extender. And then this can be used for, U-joints and stuff like that, or ball joints. This is another pusher for the ball joint. So overall, a decent kit. This is a strong piece of metal right here, and it is a great kit. Coming in at $835. That is the downfall, and I think that's where most people will fall off on this thing because it's fairly expensive for what you get. Now, being that I've gone over just the simplicity of this thing, it's not much to it, it's kind of a caveman design, we will move on to the Icon. All right, so up next is the Icon kit. Now, from first glance with the box, you can see it's got these nice metal clads that are actually really nice. So that is a huge improvement over the Snap-on box. When the handle is nice and a durable handle on the thing. It is made out of plastic too. When you set it up right, I think this is kind of funny, it actually displays the logo correctly. So I kind of like that attention to detail on the little stuff. Now, the Icon one, this actually comes in at $214.99. It just has 2 little plastic pins in the back here holding the pieces together. Overall, the blowout case is a lot larger. 20 and a half long, 17 wide, about 5 inches tall overall. Now here is the Icon ball joint press. Just like the Snap-on, it has a little greaser in the actual press part itself. The threaded rod you can put in at any length and still put it in the box, which is sweet. So this one actually has about 7 more adapters than the Snap-on, it appears. One thing I am noting is the way that these pushers, I'll call it, they have little detent balls, as you can see, where the Snap-on just has a little catch for the snap ring itself. So a little bit different design I can see there. I don't know the pros and cons to that quite yet, but we will try it on that U-joint and see what it's all about. Now, here's the press. I will pull this out. Let's just measure this. Let's just see what we have. All right, so here are the 2 actual main components of this kit with these little C-clamp presses. This one doesn't have the piece in there yet. I'll put that in there. However, these are almost indistinguishable, a carbon copy of each other. coming in right around that 10.5 inches wide or long, and this one is also 10.5 inches. Inch and a half here, inch and a half here, inch and a half, inch and a half, 6 inches, 6 inches. So yeah, other than this saying Icon and this saying Snap-on, this is very, very close to being identical copy of the Snap-on kit. I think this is where Snap-on is going to have a little bit of a argument with them, or maybe they already have, but this is, yes, definitely a carbon copy of the Snap-on. All right, let me set these aside here, and I will put the other Snap-on kit back up here so we can do a little comparison of the adapters themselves. Now, these adapters are the kind of the equivalent here with a little bit of a ring. However, these don't have the snap ring in them. They actually have that little detent ball like so. Whereas the Snap-on has the little snap ring in them to hold them like that. Like I said, I do know with the Snap-on, the only gripe I have is these rings can wear out. And this one kind of, you can feel it. You know, so when you're trying to hold the thing up there, that's where these come in handy. And it all falls apart on you. It's kind of a pain. So that's how that one holds on with little snap rings on the inside like I was showing you. And then these just have the little detent ball, which really hold nicely, to be honest. Either way, I can't really tell you, long term what these are going to actually hold up to be like, because my only experience for long term is the Snap-on. But overall, the adapters are fairly similar. The size looks pretty identical. Let's just measure a couple of them. Here's the large adapter, coming in at 2 3/4 and at 3 inches, 2 3/4. So a little bit different in size. Yeah, this one is a little larger, but also this one has more attachments. Yeah, where this one actually is identical attachments here. Right from the get-go, if you were going to ask me an opinion, for obviously a price standpoint, you're going to pick the Icon guaranteed almost every time. And they include more adapters, which if you're kind of in the field of working on cars all around, having more is never a bad thing. So the ball joint press from Icon looks great, and the Snap-on is also a good unit, to be fair. Pushers look the same. A lot of the adapters look the same. This one actually includes, the kind of a weird style knuckles and stuff that you don't get with the Snap-on. And knowing Snap-on, they most likely sell the adapters. However, they will get you for it. So with this kind of being said, let's kind of just jump into how this thing works. Let's push out this U-joint that I have on a drive shaft. And we will use the Snap-on and we will use the Icon to see how both of them perform. So let me get these off the table. We'll get the drive shaft up here and we'll get ripping. All right, this is the drive shaft at hand. It does have the nylon or plastic injected clips holding the U-joint caps in. So I'm going to heat those up so I can get that goo out of there, and then we will press them out. So this thing is actually pretty old and rusty, so hopefully it puts up a little bit of a fight for both of these, that we can kind of see if there's any difference or if it's just the same across the board, which I imagine it will be. So let me heat this up, get these joints ready to come out, and then we will press. All right, now that the toxic plastic fumes are in the air, a little East Palestine, Ohio style, we will try to pop these things out. She's still a little warm. So I think I will use the Icon one first. I have the same attachments. Everything is in order like it should be. Both heads on these units are a 22 millimeter. I'm going to be using just an electric impact. And let's get to work here. So both attachments on the same one. We will get this thing lined up in position like so. All right, and as expected, the U-joint press abilities of the Icon did just that. I actually ended up blowing up a cap removing one. So, yes, can this thing really do the job? Absolutely it can. It is a great unit. Let's move on to the snap-on press and see how that one performs with the last two caps on this joint that I want to get out here. All right, I think we are lined up. Got my ears on. Let's give it a rip here. Quick work of it. There you have it. Well, there you have it. That is just a quick demonstration on a U-joint to be removed from this old Cardone joint of a drive shaft unit. I'm pretty sure this was for a Jeep, which doesn't matter. However, ball joint press from the Icon and from the Snap-on, both do the job excellent. Now for my final thoughts, I guess, on both of the joints. With the Icon unit, you get way more attachments. It is carbon copy of the Snap-on. They use detent balls, I guess, for the adapters, and the Snap-on uses a snap ring to hold on. The rings, in my experience, again, this is kind of my bias. Snap-on, I've had this one for over 10 years. I mean, there's a lot of things I've pressed in and out of with this, so to have a little bit of the detent lose its integrity over the years is kind of probably going to happen. As far as the Icon, it's just got 4 little detent balls, and I could see those loosening up just the same over time. However, brand new unit, this thing is, like I said, perfect. I mean, it's a great purchase. And I think where people are going to fall into the category of buying the master set of the Icon versus the Snap-on purely comes down to cost. At $835 for the master unit from Snap-on, I don't see why you would buy it. And that's not to discredit Snap-on or anything. Like I said, I bought the Snap-on one, and here's the Icon one head to head. Both great units. For a quarter of the cost, you can have more attachments than the Snap-on. So it's kind of a no-brainer to me. Here it is. Like I said, you get tons of attachments. It works great. You can't even notice any, the newness in the threads per se. And that's where you have it. If you are in the market for a ball joint press, I do recommend either one of these. This is the way to go, even if you're kind of a DIY or a do-it-yourself on the side, versus, let's just say, the ATD style, any of these cheaper OTC ones. I have a couple of ball joint presses. These things are a huge pain. The C-clamp is smaller, and you get way less attachments, and they don't stick to the actual clamp itself. So when you're trying to put a ball joint in, you're fumbling it, trying to tighten it. Don't get these. These are a huge pain, and they're like probably $100 still too, where you can get, again, the Icon one for another $100, so $200. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. Like, subscribe. Let me know what you think of this. If Snap-on's really getting a kick in the behind, or if Icon is just some disgruntled ex-Snap-on employee that's trying to give them the shaft. Either way, let me know. Thanks for watching the video. Have a good day.